All right, here we go. Is the lighting all right in here? Looks to be okay. Give me 1 second. Got my under the desk walking pad ready to go. All right, cool. I'm in a rush today. We are going on a trip tomorrow and got a lot of things to take care of in the meantime, but this is going to be a killer video. I hope you enjoy it. If you join the video, whether you're watching live or watching the replay, please let me know in the comments. Leave a message in the chat and let me know that you're watching the video and that you can hear me all right. And it looks like my microphone is on, so hopefully it's working. It really comes in handy because at any time I do these live videos on Wednesdays at 12 o'clock Eastern time, I always get my steps in with my under the desk walking pad while I'm talking to you guys. So I can get in probably 2 or 3,000 steps during this video while going over an important training that I think is really helpful for all of you guys to learn and understand. And by the way, if while you're watching, you have questions, leave them in the chat. Last week, there was a bunch of questions. There was probably 10 questions that some were related to the video, some were not related to the video. I'd much rather spend time answering your questions directly, so leave them in the chat below, and I'd be happy to answer them to the best of my ability. But I also have this set of notes here on my screen over here that I'm going to share with you in case you don't have any questions. All right. So today's video is about 10 rules to help keep muscle for life that I will personally be following. 10 rules that I will be implementing myself going forward for life to make sure that I maintain muscle or to give me the best chance based on the science we know now, based on the information we currently know now in 2026. These are going to give me the best possible chance to maintain muscle in my 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. All right. And even though I'm not in my 50s or 60s or 70s, my clients are, right? Most of my clients are 40 plus. And we've got tons of examples over the last decade of guys who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, even 70s, who have not only maintained muscle and strength, but actually proven that they've built muscle. They've built even a couple pounds of muscle. Imagine building 3 pounds of muscle in your 50s or 60s. Like, that's nothing to sneeze at. That's really impressive. And we've got the DEXA scans to prove it. All right. So this is proven stuff. This is realistic stuff. Oh, we got Tom on here. Oh, you're on your lunch break for only 10 minutes. No worries, man. I appreciate you hopping on. So let's go through these 10 rules. So the first rule, there's going to be some in here that you, even if you've been following me for years, you have not heard me say before. And then there's going to be some familiar ones that you probably know, right? So the first one is an obvious one. Rule number one is you need to strength train at least 3 to 4 times per week. Or I should say, I'm going to strength train at least 3 to 4 times per week. Now, I fully acknowledge that as our life progresses, as our goals adapt over time throughout our life, our fitness journey is really just our life journey. You're going to be working out more or less in some of those phases, right? Right now, I'm working out 5 times a week very gladly, and I can fit that into my schedule, and I'm happy to do it. I look forward to it. I go to the gym 5 times a week, and it's really something I look forward to. I acknowledge that that might not always be the case. If we have kids or we have a situation where that's not as realistic anymore, that's totally fine. I will find a way to strength train at least 3 or 4 times a week. Maybe it's at home. Maybe I focus on home training to have more convenience and time at home and don't have to leave, right? Maybe there's other goals that I really get involved with and really enjoy, whether it's endurance based stuff, whether it's, cardio based stuff, whether it's martial arts based stuff. What if I get into running marathons and in my 40s I become this addict that just loves running marathons and Tough Mudders and stuff like that? I hate doing that now, but nothing's impossible. That might happen to me, and I might develop this huge love for these, runs and marathons and stuff like that. In which case, I'll be strength training less, right? I have clients who do this, who compete in tough mutters and decas and high roxes, and they're not strength training 4 or 5 times a week during that prep season where they're trying to perform their best. They're training more like 3 times a week. So that would be me in this case, right? Nonetheless, my point here is if one of your top priorities is to maintain muscle as you get older, to maintain strength, durability, to have a better quality of life, people who have more muscle have a generally a higher quality of life as they get older. They're able to do more things. They're able to be more active. They're less likely to get injured. They're less likely to break bones when they fall over because you have more bone density if you generally are someone who's working out. So, strength training 3 to 4 times a week is essentially a non-negotiable. That's a rule. And if you're not doing that, if you're someone who's strength training once a week or twice a week or zero for part of the year, maybe you don't strength train at all. Yeah, like you're gonna lose muscle, dude. Like that's it. Like you got to accept that, right? You can't expect to go 6 months without strength training and for you to maintain all your muscle. That's just not gonna happen, right? It's pretty logical stuff. So number two here, let me put that in the chat though. Number one is strength training at least 3 to 4 times a week. All right. Number two is actually trying to get stronger in those workouts. So there's a difference here. You could go to the gym 3 or 4 times a week and just be going through the motions and not really pushing yourself too hard. And, you may not get any stronger in a 6 month time, a year time. Maybe you go multiple years. Maybe you're someone who's been going to the gym for many years now, but you're doing the same weight that you were doing 4 years ago or 3 years ago. You're doing the same reps. You're just going through the motions. You really never push out of your comfort zone to the point where you're making those weird faces and huffing a little bit. Like, uh, you might not maintain muscle if you're training that way. If you're training just completely in your comfort zone, just only doing the exercises that you like, only stopping at the slightest feeling of discomfort, doing the same weight for the same reps, the same routine as been doing for a long, long time. That's not a great sign or recipe for someone who's going to keep muscle because it's not just the strength training. There's a reason there's 10 of these, 10 rules, and not just one rule. If you could just go and strength train 3 to 4 times a week and that was it, and you were guaranteed to maintain muscle, we wouldn't have these other 9 things, right? So you actually do have to try to get stronger. It doesn't mean it's always going to happen. You're certainly not going to get stronger every workout. You're certainly not going to get stronger every week or even every month. There may even be some exercises that you just don't get stronger at that you like. You might be doing lateral raises with 20-pound dumbbells for life. And that's okay because maybe that's an exercise that if you go heavier, you might injure your elbow or you might, it's a little bit too risky and that's okay. But there should be some areas that you are attempting to get stronger, whether it be adding 5 pounds, whether it be just sticking with a light weight and doing more reps. Like if you're doing a chest press with 50-pound dumbbells and you can do that for 10 reps easily, can you do that for 12 reps or 15 reps? Can you get to a point where you're doing that same weight for 20 reps? That's an example of getting stronger. But the main idea here is that you do have to go into the gym or train at home with intention of trying to make progress. Because if you're not making progress to some degree, you're way less likely to maintain muscle because the muscles aren't being challenged enough. All right. I hope that makes sense. Let me know if number two makes sense. You actually have to have the intention of trying to get stronger in some way, shape, or form. And luckily, there's multiple ways that you can get stronger. All right. I should have brought my water up here. Forgot my water. Too bad. But let's keep going. Number three, this is one that maybe you might not think of when you think of the 10 most important things when it comes to maintaining muscle as you get older. Number 3 is doing everything possible to train safely and with proper form to minimize the risk of injury. All right. So, number 2 and number 3 paired together, you get to a point of someone who becomes more of an intermediate and advanced lifter, not someone who's a beginner. There's a balance there of pushing out of your comfort zone, pushing to a point that it's really, really hard, pushing to the point where you might even get to failure on some exercises, while also maintaining proper form while you're doing that and training safely to avoid injury, to limit the risk of injury. Because I'll tell you what certainly will lead to losing muscle is if you get injured and you can't work out for 6 months, or you get injured and you can't work out for a year, or you get injured and you have to modify your training for 8 months and not train to your best ability. Now, um, sometimes this happens. Sometimes we get injuries and we get tweaks and things that are mostly out of our control. And, we're training safely and we're training with proper form, and it still happens. And that's also part of the game and normal. Like everyone I know who is really into their fitness and in great shape, and maybe all the other trainers I know, they've all dealt with injuries in their journey too, and they know how to train properly and safely. It is part of the game, but just keep that in the back of your head that training safely is top tier importance. Training with proper form is top tier importance. So only increase weights if you can maintain proper form, and stick with exercises and movements that are safe for you. Everyone has their own things. Like for me, it's my back. I've injured my back multiple times over my journey, and there's certain positions and there's certain exercises that I simply won't do probably ever again because I know that it puts me at a higher risk of tweaking my back again. I won't put a loaded barbell on my back probably ever again. It's not worth it. It's not worth the risk of injuring my back and being out from training for 2 months or a month or even a week. There's other exercises I can do to strengthen my legs that are very effective that don't require putting a barbell on my back. There's plenty of other examples of things that I now do in my own training that are meant to keep me safe, that are meant to limit the risk of injury. And there's many of my clients who are in the same position. And we know that there's certain things that they're doing in their program, certain things maybe even we're staying away from in their programs year after year that help make sure that they can continue training safely. If you can simply continue training safely and consistently, month after month, year after year, you're obviously going to have a better chance of maintaining muscle if you don't have to go extended periods of time recovering from an injury. All right. We want to avoid having to stop working out for 6 or more months because we get injured. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know in the chat if you understand what I mean by that. And I just put that in the chat as well. All right. Number 4 is I will be eating a higher protein diet. Now, to what extent that protein is high, I believe will fluctuate throughout my journey based on my goals at the time, based on my health markers, based on a ton of things, right? But as long as for me, what I've been doing the last several years with a priority on not only maintaining muscle, but often trying to build muscle, is I'm eating specifically about 1.5 times my lean body mass. So that is about how much protein I'm eating. Um, and that equation isn't appropriate for everybody. That equation wouldn't be appropriate for somebody who's very overweight, for somebody who has 30 pounds, 40 pounds, 50 pounds to lose. It wouldn't be appropriate for them. Uh, if that's you, if you've got 30, 40, 50 pounds to lose, you might want to multiply your lean body mass by 1.2 or 1.3. And that could be a good marker for somebody who wants to maintain or build muscle while losing weight or while staying lean. All right. Now that is an equation that is based on your body composition, obviously, lean body mass. And again, you can do a quick Google search or you can ask ChatGPT, how do I find out my lean body mass? And in 60 seconds, you'll know it. And you just multiply that by 1.2. Or if you consider yourself very lean and very fit, like like I consider myself, you could do 1.5 times your lean body mass, and that will give you a general idea of about how much protein might be appropriate. Now, please understand, this is the most general guideline I'm trying to give. I'm telling you what I'm doing. If you were to tell me everything about yourself, your goals, your activity levels, how much you work out, your number one, number two, number three priorities in your fitness, how much you eat per day. Like if I was to gather all the information I needed to know about you, if you were a client of mine, I might set you with a different amount of protein to aim for compared to that equation I just gave you. So just know that. It's just a general idea, but if you were a client of mine, it would be much more hyper customized. All right. Now we need a moderate to higher protein diet. We don't need like an insanely high protein diet, but we need at least a reasonable amount of protein to give us the best chance at maintaining muscle. And again, this is just what I'm doing. This is the amount of protein that I'm eating and the rule that I'm following. Now, number four, this is one that you may not have heard me say before. I'm sorry, number five, because I haven't done much of it up until now, being a younger guy. I'm in my 30s now, and certainly will be doing this in the short term and in the long term. I'm actually going to do it in the next week or two, which is to get blood work done and make sure that your testosterone levels, as well as your other, other metrics, are in healthy levels. All right, this is certainly something, if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, you should do uh, frequently, like um, every year for sure, probably more than that, probably every 6 months, maybe, depending on where it's at. If it's super healthy and fine, every year. If there's any thought that it's lower your testosterone or anything else, more frequently, probably. But you talk to your doctor about that, right? This is something you do with your doctor. Get blood work done and keep an eye on your testosterone levels. And if it turns out that your testosterone levels are like very, very low, they will propose to you, the doctors, they will propose to you some sort of treatment to help with that, which is usually like TRT, which you've certainly probably heard of, testosterone replacement therapy, which is, it can be administered a bunch of different ways, but the most common way is through injections. So they give you testosterone injections, a very specific amount and dosage to do. And I think, obviously, I don't know, I've never done it, but I have clients who have done it. And I think it's up to you to like administer that yourself. You wouldn't be like going to a place for them to do it on you. So you'd have to kind of learn how to do it, I guess. There's also like certain gels, and I don't think they're known to be as effective, or I'm just learning about them now. There are gels that you would basically rub on yourself that are supposed to help if you have low testosterone as well. And again, this isn't like, these aren't things you get at GNC. These aren't things you get on a Facebook ad or an Instagram ad. This is done through your doctor. It's a prescription and it's a treatment. All right. And again, this is assuming if you had low testosterone levels. So for me, I've had no indications that I've had low testosterone levels. I haven't had much blood work done in recent years at all. I've just recently seen a new doctor, and I will be getting blood work done, very shortly here to get an idea of where I'm at. I imagine everything will be fine, but if in the future, a couple years down the road in my 40s or my 50s or my 60s, if it ever became a fact that my testosterone levels were low, I would certainly do a testosterone replacement therapy treatment to bring my testosterone levels up to normal ranges. There would be no reason not um, to my understanding, right? Obviously, I would look more into it at that point, but this is something that matters for maintaining muscle, right? If you're really, really low on testosterone, you're probably going to be less likely to maintain muscle compared to if you're in a healthy range. So that's something to keep an eye on for all you guys out there who are, want to stay on top of your health and your metrics and your hormones and things like that. All right. So number 6. Oh, let me put that in here. That was number 5. Get blood work done and make sure your testosterone levels are in a healthy range. Number 6 rule is to prioritize sleep. And that's pretty vague. I'm not telling you to get 9 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, 6 hours. I try to get 8 hours or more now, and sleep is very important for me and how I feel and how I function. Um, but right now, it's me, it's Morgan, it's our 2 dogs. We're more in control of our sleep right now. And sleep is when we recover, and is when, if you're not getting enough sleep, if you're getting less sleep than you need, if you're getting poor quality sleep, it definitely is going to impact your ability to maintain muscle and certainly to build muscle. So we don't think of that as one of the top things that is important to us when it comes to our physique or our muscle mass, but it definitely is. And I totally acknowledge that there's certain people, certain situations that people want to get more sleep, they just can't because maybe they have younger kids or a big family, or they have multiple kids, and they're in that period of, there's other things that are important, that are, they have to be there taking care of those younger kids. If they're waking up, that it's going to impact their own sleep, and if they could sleep more they would, but they just can't right now. That's totally fine and totally understandable. And if that's ever a position that I'm in, I will still do my best to prioritize sleep, but I won't be able to make it a hard rule that I'll get 8 hours or that I'll get 7 hours or 9 hours. I'll do my best to prioritize it, no matter what living situation I'm in, is my point. But I acknowledge that that is a top tier important priority that we should all try to really make one of our top rules. All right, prioritize sleep. Number 7. Number 7 is to eat at least a moderate carb diet, not to eliminate carbs completely. Basically, is what I'm saying. It's a rule of mine that I'm going to include some carbs, some healthy carb sources in my diet, because this is just going to give me a better chance at maintaining muscle and strength, and possibly getting stronger or building muscle. Because carbs are the preferred fuel source for exercise. Um, you're going to have better quality workouts in the gym if you have some carbs in your system and you have some glycogen stores in your muscles, right? When we have carbs, it fills up some of your muscle cells with glycogen, which is important for getting stronger, important for, lifting weights in the gym and for energy. And when we eliminate carbs, or when we're very carb depleted, we're eating very little amount of carbs, it makes it much harder to get stronger. It makes it much harder to push the same weight or to get the same reps because our glycogen stores are depleted. So someone who is eating at least a reasonable amount of carbs is always going to have an advantage in the strength and muscle department compared to somebody who is like on a keto diet or a carnivore diet. Like every time, it's not even close. So you're going to have better recovery, you're going to have more energy, you're going to have higher quality workouts. So that is something that is like a major thing for maintaining muscle as you get older is what kind of diet are you following? You better not be eliminating carbs completely, and you better have some reasonable amount or moderate amount of carbs in your diet at the very least. All right. So that's number 7. We're getting down to the wire here. Number 8. And this one is one you might not have thought of. The 8th rule to keep muscle on for life for me is not to be in a calorie deficit for too long. Not to be, and for me, it's generally 6 months or more. If I wanted to, let's say, do a men's physique competition or just do a really serious fat loss phase where I got as lean as possible and I wanted to get as shredded as possible for a photo shoot or something like that, if I went hard at it, I should be able to get to that physique within 6 months, really shorter, within 4, 5 months, definitely 6 months on the long end. If you're doing it right, you really don't want to um well, for me, based on my starting position, I wouldn't want to be in a calorie deficit for more than 6 months. Now, for people who have a lot of weight to lose, it's totally okay to be on a deficit for longer than that. Because for you, if, like, again, if you're someone who does want to lose weight, if you want to lose 20, 30, 40, 50 or more pounds, you may have to be in a deficit, like that initial phase of getting down to a healthy weight range or getting down to your target weight range. It might take 8 months or 10 months or a year or a little bit longer than a year. So if you end up being in a deficit for those amounts of time, that's okay, with the understanding, knowing that it's not forever. You're not going to be in a deficit forever. You're just in a deficit until you reach your goal, and then you can increase food to be at maintenance, or you can switch to a muscle building phase if you want, where you might be eating even in a slight surplus. The idea is once you get down to your goal weight or your target weight or a healthy weight range, then you won't feel the urgency to lose more weight. You won't be needed to be in a calorie deficit. You can always do it again later, right? You can always do another fat loss phase later if you really want to. But once you're in that healthy range with weight, in my opinion, there's no reason to be in a calorie deficit for more than 6 months. And it's going to be harder. The reason for this is it's going to be harder to maintain muscle if you're constantly in a deficit. Most people lose muscle when they're in a weight loss phase and they're in a deficit. You're at a deficit of energy and of resources, right? So GLP-1s are kind of exposing the fact that most people lose muscle when they lose weight. There's nothing specific about GLP-1s that targets muscle and makes you lose it. People who aren't on GLP-1s, they all lose muscle too when they lose weight. Very few people are able to maintain muscle when they're losing any significant amount of weight. Let's call it 20 or more pounds. Most people lose muscle as part of that 20 or more pounds. And it's because they're not doing a lot of these things we're talking about. They're not eating enough protein. They're not strength training, sometimes at all, or a lot of times they're not strength training at all. Sometimes they're not strength training properly or the right way or hard enough. So they lose muscle, right? And again, GLP-1s are just exposing this. People are freaking out. Oh my God, everyone on GLP-1s is losing muscle. It's like, no, there's just more people losing weight now because of GLP-1s. Uh, all you motherfuckers who are off GLP-1s and losing weight are losing muscle too. I did a Google search the other day. It was like, how many or it was on ChatGPT. It was like, how many, what's like the percentage of people who lose muscle who lose 20 or more pounds? And the response was almost everyone, almost everybody loses muscle when they lose weight. So the reason for that is you're in a calorie deficit, obviously not eating enough protein, many people, not strength training properly, a lot of people, some people, these other things we're mentioning as well, maybe factor in. But the idea is if you can be at maintenance calories or even in a slight surplus for the majority of the year, you are way more likely to maintain muscle. So get to a point where you don't have to constantly lose weight. Get to a point where you're at a healthy weight range and you're not always focused on losing weight so that you can actually eat at maintenance calories for a good chunk of your life and put yourself in a good position to maintain muscle and be in an advantageous position to maintain muscle because your body has more resources to use. All right. Let me know if that makes sense. Number 8, not being in a calorie deficit for more than 6 months at a time, probably for most people. And again, I'm speaking generally, but this is for me, really. I'm speaking personally. That's what I plan to do. If I was 40 pounds overweight, I would be in a deficit as long as it required me to get down to a healthy weight range and a physique and a leanness that I was happy with. And then I would follow this number 8 of not being in a deficit for too long. All right. Number 9, ninth rule is to follow a structured program. So if you're following a structured and progressive training program and nutrition plan, dude, you've just got way uh, more of an advantage to maintain muscle as compared to someone who's just kind of winging it or figuring it out as they go or doing trial and error or doing random stuff like downloading fitness apps, free fitness apps, or paying $30 a month for like a generic routine, like um, or following random YouTube videos, right? Typing in like men's home upper body workout, or like these are random things. So if you're following a structured program with an effective amount of sets and reps per muscle group per week, and it's progressive over time, you're just at a way bigger advantage here with maintaining muscle. Same goes with nutrition. If you have a structured nutrition plan, I'm not talking about eating clean. 95% of people who I ask about what are you doing with nutrition, they say I'm eating clean. That's not a plan. If you ask 10 people today, what's the definition of eating clean? You'll get 10 different definitions. It's not a plan. Eating 180 grams of protein a day, that's a plan. That's a very calculated plan. Eating 200 grams of carbs a day, you know exactly what it is. That's a plan. That's a specific calculated thing to aim for. If you're eating 2,000 calories a day, that's a plan. Even if you're like intermittent fasting, at least there's a structure to that. It may not be as calculated of a plan as tracking your macros, but at least there's a framework there of, all right, what am I doing? I'm eating 2 meals a day. I'm eating lunch and dinner. I'm skipping breakfast to help put me in a deficit, and I'm having a snack or two in between my 2 meals. So basically I don't eat before lunch or after dinner. So I'm intermittent fasting. All right, at least there's a framework to that, right? That's what I'm aiming to do each day. Um, so again, that's a more clear plan than I'm eating clean. All right, well, what the fuck? What does that mean? Are you eating like high fiber tortillas then? Is that considered clean? Are you eating fruit? Is that considered clean? Are you eating like what kind of proteins are you eating? Like how often are you having allowing desserts? Are you just never eating dessert again? You never having a birthday cake again? Never having holidays again with pie and stuff like that? So that, or you see what I mean? Like eating clean is the worst plan because it's not a plan. So having a structured plan with nutrition, man, puts you on another level with your ability to maintain muscle. All right. And number 10 is to work with a coach. There's a reason why I work with a coach pretty much every year, even though I'm a coach, even though I'm highly educated on nutrition and training, and I've been coaching other people in the industry for 13 years, and I still work with a coach because it's not about how much you know, it's about the level of consistency that we portray when we have to tell another human what we're doing and how we're doing. There's no doubt that I'm more consistent tracking my macros, weighing myself every day, taking progress photos when I have a coach in my corner once or twice a week telling me to do those things and reminding me and asking me to do those things because I don't want to let him down. If he says to me, "Jesse, can you take progress photos this week?" and I say, "Yeah, I'll make sure to take them." I'm more likely to actually take the progress photos because I told him that I would. If I never had to tell somebody that I would do it, I wouldn't have done it. And I've gone stretches where for 3 months or 6 months, I don't work with a coach. I take 0 progress photos. I track my macros, but maybe I stop tracking after dinner and I still have a couple snacks. So I'm not tracking as effectively or consistently. I'm still tracking. Technically, I can lie to myself and say I'm still tracking, but it's not as accurate as if I'm tracking and I'm reporting my macros back to my coach, I get everything. Every snack, every drink, everything I have because I want him to have all the information properly, all the info he needs to know what I should do next. Again, it has nothing to do with information. It has to do with human nature, accountability, skin in the game, consistency. So, why do I say this is number 10, work with a coach? Because you're more likely to be consistent with your macros. You're more likely to be consistent weighing yourself. You're more likely to be consistent with your training program. And by the way, if you hire somebody else to draw up your training program, you may be great at you may know a lot about your own training and exercises and stuff like that, but you're going to stick with the exercises that you like. You're going to stick if it's left up to you, you're going to stick with the exercises that you like and that you're comfortable with. And this goes back to number 2, rule number 2, which is trying to get stronger and having to push out of your comfort zone in your workouts. If you hire somebody else to draw up your training program, there's going to be an exercise or 2 or 3 in there that you wouldn't have chose to do on your own because it's a little uncomfortable or it's a pain to set up or it's really quite frankly it's just really hard and you don't want to do that. But if someone else tells you to do it, you'll do it. And sometimes the exercises that we would rather have chosen not to do are the most beneficial, end up leading to the most growth because they're the ones that push us out of our comfort zone. Do you see what I mean there? So I'm not saying work with a coach because I'm a coach and I want more people to sign up, right? Sure, if you want to sign up, you can sign up, but that's not the reason why I'm saying it. I'm saying it because there's so much clear evidence to me that people just are pushed out of their comfort zone a little more, are way more consistent when they have to report back to somebody, when they have to follow a program that they didn't draw up themselves. So it just gives you a better chance at progress in your workouts. It gives you a better chance at doing what you need to do on the nutrition side to maintain muscle. All right. So you're always going to, like, you can certainly see results on your own, but you're always going to see better results when you are invested in it, when you are investing a few $100 a month or whatever it is into your health and your fitness and into a coach and having to report back to that coach. So, hope this helps. These are my 10 rules for life to maintain muscle as much as you can as you get older. This is the plan that I plan to follow going forward into the rest of my 30s and 40s and 50s. You best believe when in my 50s, I'm going to be strength training 3 times a week, 4 times a week, 5 times a week, maybe. You better believe that I'm still going to try to get stronger. Even in my 50s or 60s, you better believe that I'm going to be really trying to master my form in whatever exercises I'm doing. I'm going to be eating a higher protein diet. I'm going to be getting blood work done and keeping tabs on, my health and my hormone levels and things like that. I'm going to be including some carbs in my diet to have the best quality workouts. I'm going to be following a structured program, and I'm going to be working with a coach. All right. So I go live every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. If you'd like to explore the options of working together, having me coach you in 2026 to get in the best shape of your life and do it predictably with a step by step process and guidelines that have worked over and over and over again for the last 10 years, um, you can check out some of the links below this video. There's also some free resources. There's like um, a cookbook of recipes that are high protein recipes that are stupidly easy to make. And I list out the macros and the ingredients and everything you need. So grab whatever you can that might help down below. And I will catch you on the next video. Talk to you later. Thank you for watching. Bye.